Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode one of the Citrix Session Network Edition. I'm your host for the moment, at least, Andy Whiteside. I've got Chris Doran with me. Chris and I have been discussing for a few months starting a Citrix podcast, another one. As some of you guys may know, we do one called the Citrix Session now, but doing one that's really more networking focused as it relates to the Citrix product set and getting down in the weeds a little bit, and sometimes at a high level, sometimes really down in the weeds, talking about the technology and what you can do with it and changes that have happened and things that are coming, and interviewing different authors from various blogs on the Citrix website. But let's start with talking to Chris a little bit. Chris, you want to get a little background on yourself?
Yeah, sure. Been in IT my whole life since graduating in about 2001. So first job, started working in the Microsoft shops, running the servers and everything, and then got to some of the bigger ones where we were dispersing and had high availability across multiple data centers. And that's where I really started hopping into the load balancing components and high availability pieces that came with that to ensure those applications and terminal server sessions and everything were up and running all the time. And then I'd work a little bit in the Cisco realm as well, but still kind of was drawn back to the virtualization side a lot. And then ran into this guy Andy one day and kind of saw that specialization inside the Citrix area, and his recommendation to kind of focus on the NetScaler at the time was where it kind of fit me very well. Not a little bit of networking, a little bit of virtualization, kind of all rolled into one, and the rest is kind of history.
Well, I think that's an interesting background, right? And a lot of people have this and a lot of people don't have this. And that's where you maybe start off in the Wintel world, you get into the route switch world a little bit, and you realize, somewhere in the middle, there's a blend of, the whole point in IT is to help people get connected to their applications. And sometimes the application is Windows itself to talk to other applications. And sometimes it's, HTML, HTTP going across a network somewhere. Sometimes it's ping, right? I mean, not that end users would use ping, but ping does a lot of things for you in terms of helping you understand what can talk to something and get a response back. I think one of the interesting things about you is coming from that Wintel side, that x86 application side, and trying to see the picture for what it is. What did we do when we were kids a long time ago? Those pictures on the wall you would stare at, that all I ever saw was a bunch of dots. But certain people could look at them and see the image inside there. I think that kind of sums up what it's like to be an application guy that understands route switch.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah, you'd stare and stare and stare at that picture to try to extract that image to see what was actually underneath it that made it what it is, why you paid for it, So yeah, that's a great way of looking at that.
You go to Spencer's at the mall and look at those things on the wall for an hour. And I never could see anything. Other friends of mine would just glance at it. Oh, that's an elephant, or that's a porcupine. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you got to look through it, they would say. And then the store clerk would say, you going to buy it or just stare at it all day?
I'm done.
I see it. I'm not going to buy it.
You and I were talking about t-shirts at some point today. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. I'm a big fan of word art type stuff, but maybe you hide an image inside a t-shirt at some point at Synergy a couple years from now, and you can see the image, can come maybe get a special prize. I don't know. Just thinking outside the box. So Chris, tell me a little bit about the blogs that you're going to be focused on. Is it going to be just ADC, just SD-WAN? Are we going to do SASE? What areas do you plan to pick blogs out and cover with the author of choice?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So, some of these first ones that we're trying to get lined up are kind of with the ADM, the application delivery manager, and helping you become more aware on a proactive basis of when security vulnerabilities are present, or when you need to drop what you're doing and tackle your upgrades of the firmware and everything. Try to keep everybody safe and healthy and happy. And then we'll start moving into some of the newer technologies and discussing with some of the blog authors and technology specialists on the SIA side, or SIA, I've heard it pronounced before, and some of that SASE model and how we can approach that and the different components of, and we break that apart, see how the SD-WAN plays into it, what's its role inside of that SASE circle, and then, CWAP side, and then the SIA, and how do we make all that work together and tie it together so that we have that off-prem kind of gateway that's scanning our internet traffic and securing us before it even touches our data centers. And that's really where we need to be anymore, because we know all the vulnerabilities that are present and appear to our customers here and there, and that happen across all the vendors in the industry. So just talking about it and being a little bit more aware and having some candid discussion, just kind of keeps the ball rolling, and as we see things and discuss it, we might bounce things off each other or uncover ideas where we could help shape the future of this a little bit.
Would it be fair to say that the cloud or things as a service have made it cloudier as to what is, where does route switch stop and start, and where does application activities start and stop, and it's all just kind of in there together, and you kind of got to go hand in hand now? Is that what's happened? While
it seems that way, as the networking's become software defined, it's just another application maybe running on something that looks like a router or switch, but it's really a processing component of that software to make these things happen. So
I guess we should highlight something. If anybody ever sees the video from this podcast, you're in a rental house, or you sold your house. You look like a homeless man right now.
Yeah. We sold it and move into one, needs some updates. So a lot of crews here, moving things around and helping out.
So have you already bought a new house?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're out in York.
Okay. So the idea that we're going to cover blogs, so that is the goal, right? You're going to find a blog off the Citrix site. They come out they come out weekly. You're going to find a blog that applies to what we used to call networking, but now it's app security. What is Citrix actually calling this part of the business these days?
Citrix networking.
Yeah, but don't they have like apps? What do they call the sales guys? What are the new sales?
They're product specialists on the networking side.
Yeah, but don't they have like one of the sales guys? They would have a different title now. It's like app delivery and security.
I've seen security in there sometimes. I've seen the networking component in there, played in a few times as well. So east to west coast, I've seen it a couple different ways, but typically they're involved in the same thing.
Yeah. Citrix understands that this application world and networking world has collided, especially when you start talking about stuff as a service and cloud. And we want to make sure people are learning the best of what's coming out of the Citrix world. And it's, it's really evolved a lot in the last year around other services they deliver.
Definitely. I think like about a year ago, we were chatting on the Citrix podcast, and you had an author on there that was talking about like the DNS caching that the CPX edition could do. Yeah. And just I've really learned a lot. You think you know it, but when you hear the person who kind of helped develop it and bring it to market, talking why, what was their reasoning behind that, and why do they put that effort into making that technology happen to the point where it is generally available and released with Citrix name on it. It's very valuable. Learned a lot in just a few minutes. So hoping to share that.
That's the whole goal of turning this into a podcast, right? Get the word out there, get more content and with context out there. I had an email the other day from a guy who he listens to the Vendor of Records podcast, but says he jumped on ours and learned a lot more about what it was they were trying to cover, just from the way we approached it and the way we tried to elevate the conversation and get into what the company's really trying to accomplish with the technology, not just the marketing spin.
Yeah, definitely. Still trying to build that community. I think that's what keeps us a differentiator from the other guys,
Yeah,
no matter where you work.
Had somebody say to me an hour or so ago that some of the other partners in the space aren't real big fans of ours. And my response back to that was, I think that's because we're challenging everybody to do more and act different. And I think some of the other partners are, put off by that, but we don't care. That's what we're going to do anyway. And if people like it and consume it, great. If people find it challenging and a struggle, then that's not our problem.
Nope. I don't think any other partner out there is actively working on an outdoor event like we're working on, soon to be announced.
Yeah, you got stuff going on. I've got 5 podcasts today that I'm doing, and I get excited to do them. Also get drained. It's a heck of a Monday, every other Monday.
Yeah, I bet.
But that's good. We get good feedback, and this stuff's growing, and people are getting and learning learning from us and our guests. And I think you got a couple guests. Well, first, let me say this. I won't be hosting this one. You will be hosting this one. I'll show up every once in a while.
Yep.
Like Beetlejuice, maybe say my name a couple times. I'll show up out of the blue. But you're going to be hosting this, and you're going to have some guests on. Do you have some pre-scheduled guests that are already signed up to be co-host kind of things?
Yes, I do. So definitely from the Citrix team, a couple that will be announced very shortly here that was solidifying.
Okay.
Some of the engineering teams, some of the blog post authors. So I got the next month wrapped up and scheduled already.
Yeah.
So that'll be coming pretty shortly.
That's one of my favorite things about this. We literally on multiple occasions, I get on a podcast and we actually pick the topic while we're talking through what we're going to cover that day. A lot of times, especially in the Citrix world, there's so much content. We get them out there early. But in some of the other ones we do, you literally can just, find a good blog at the drop of a hat and talk through it. And, it may not be perfect, but it gets the point across.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's kind of the goal. Not like to plan it out a little bit ahead of time as I'm becoming more comfortable with it. And then when I get to 5 a day, such as yourself, maybe I'll just open Google up real quick and find one for the day.
Yeah. It's 5 a week, and I don't recommend making it too difficult on yourself. It's super simple. Just take the content that's out there and talk about it. I mean, right now, okay, so let me ask you, if I were to challenge you right now and say this month, how many of the Citrix blogs have you taken the time to actually stop and read? What's the answer?
Probably 2.
2. And that's somebody who eats, sleeps, breathes this stuff.
Yeah.
I see all these blogs come across. I scan the titles. Like, oh, I'd love to read that. I'd love to read that. And then the phone rings or an email comes in, and I got to keep going.
I get my lab out of the boxes here behind me.
Yeah.
Once I get that plugged back up, I'll start investigating them more, and then immediately try to implement some of that into the lab environment.
Yeah.
But I'm almost there.
Well, speaking of which, I got a couple super micro 64 gig servers that are sitting in my rack over here turned off. Those little form factor ones.
Yeah.
I need to get those out of here. They're just sitting there wasting shelf space. So
okay.
Let me know.
I'll come up there this week.
What have we not covered that we need to cover in this introductory podcast? I get questions all the time when I ask somebody to join us. Hey, what's the podcast about? I just point them to this podcast and say, listen to this one. You'll be all set. What have we not covered? We need to make sure we cover.
Well, right now we're going to focus on the Citrix technologies that revolve around the networking stacks. So that's the goal of this, and I think that'll carry us for quite some time. I mean, there's infinite possibilities, and it's changing so very often that it's almost on a weekly basis. We could probably host these. Yeah. We'll see how the response is, and if it's favorable, then maybe we crank up the frequency of it.
Yeah. And then if we need to do another podcast or 2 on other technologies that you're working intimately with, Cisco Meraki, Fortinet, we'll spin those up too.
Yeah, definitely, because they're all a piece of the ecosystem. So regardless of that vendor that you have, we should be identifying it.
This one will be all about Citrix and Citrix networking. But if we need to spin up a whole another series, and next thing you know, you'll be in the 3 or 4 podcasts a week bucket. But if we need to, we will. I mean, those are things that are possibly coming down the pipe.
Yes. And so we're gaining some traction there, especially with some of the other vendors. But ultimately, when you look at it from a high level, they're there. They're already a component. So I mean, they have to function in harmony together. Yeah. Because your Palo Alto might be blocking your cloud connectors, and you need to talk about that kind of stuff and identify it, and just have an open floor to discuss it.
Well, let's hit that topic real quick. How many Citrix customers do we have that don't have some form of a network that requires some other brand?
No, pretty much 0.
Yeah, I mean, they all do. Right?
They've all got it.
Yeah, you hear me say that to the sales team all the time. Bring up networking to your customers. They all have it.
Yeah, they all have it. And
I'll say this. Hopefully, this won't come on. Hey, give me some of that network. I know you got it, right? Got it? Right, it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, other than the fact you're moving, or maybe have moved, if that's what you call that.
I'm in a new residence.
Yeah.
I got a lot to do here, though.
Well, so other than that, just a quick bio on Chris and what Chris is all about.
Went camping this weekend, like going outdoors, fishing, winter sports, all that kind of stuff. Big fan of XenTegra. I've been here, it'll be 8 years this fall. So
you're like employee number 4 or something, right?
It's single digits. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I really do. I know you like to snowboard, even though you only have one knee left now because of it.
That's yeah. You get in those 40s, they start wearing out a little faster than they used to. But
Yeah.
I'm almost back. Maybe one more season.
Went wake surfing a little bit yesterday, and first time all year. We did it right in the main channel. It was rough as can be, and I'm paying for it today. Oh, I also rode a stand-up jet ski a bunch yesterday. And my shoulders and back, they forgot what that. They forgot about that.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'm sure it was busy as can be out there. We drove by the lake yesterday on the way home. I saw it was pretty crowded.
Almost not worth going out on the weekend. Other than that's when everybody else has time off. So anything else?
Yeah.
I know you got a couple kids, wife, just busy like the rest of us, right? Making a living and making a living.
Yep, trying to. This my house right now is literally one of those HGTV shows. So they're putting headers in the ceiling, and I hear the drills and the 2-year-olds knocking on the door.
Yeah.
It's nuts. So yeah, you're going to be seeing me on site more often next couple of weeks up that way.
In this day and age, where did you find a contractor that was available?
He fixed my last house up. I've been in discussion for about 2 years, and then he actually was friends with the designer that we have for the kitchen. So we put them together, and then they just ripped the kitchen out the day after we closed on this. It's moving fast. There's a dumpster in the driveway and a pod and 4 trucks right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, these days it's hard to find people. They're so busy. Everybody's
Oh yeah.
updating stuff.
Oh yes, they are. They're
Well,
doing all right.
As the world gets back to doing, going back to work some and getting out, walking the dog, hopefully they can listen to our podcast, learn a little bit about Citrix networking, and we can add some more value to somebody's day, somebody's world, somebody's life. That's the most important thing.
Yep, we're here. If you listen to us.
All right. Well, this will be episode 1, and you'll be hosting the next one, and we'll see how it goes. Again, I'll pop in from time to time if you want me to, and ask some dumb questions, which sometimes they're intentional, but a lot of times they're not intentional. They really are questions that I have, and we'll go from there.
Definitely. Well, thanks for pushing to help set this up. I'm looking forward to it. I hope to get a lot out of it and share a lot with everybody.
All right. Well, thank you to our listeners, and we'll be back and do episode 2, which will be our kickoff episode with our first set of authors, our guest, in I guess a week or so, right?
It is on the 7th of next month.
Okay.
So yep, just 2 weeks away.
They come fast and often once you get them going, I promise.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you.
And thank you. Talk to y'all.